Satan is encouraging of the pursuit of knowledge in a literary sense. Obviously, I don't believe in a literal Satan. I feel that the pursuit of knowledge is worth going after, and Satan represents that throughout history in a bunch of different ways. Prometheus, the light bringer, giving fire to humanity. He's always been a champion of humanity, as opposed to live by my rules or I will send you to the worst place imaginable when you die. I've read it. I've read it in several different forms. I've read it in church, out of church. My mother still reads her Bible. I think that it's got interesting stories, but it's also got a lot of contradictions. And if one thing is wrong with it, then the whole thing falls apart. A few people reference Jesus rising from the grave as evidence that he's all-powerful and all-loving for forgiving all your sins, for giving up his weekend. If he rose after 3 days from the grave, then he didn't die for your sins. He gave up his weekend. That's what he did, his 3-day weekend.
There's so much unfairness and death. I personally don't know. We've talked about murder earlier. I had a son that was murdered. Where is God's love the day he let someone beat my son to death? And like I said, I feel for you because I remember being in that spot. And then I remember it being ripped from me and realizing how cold and uncaring the universe can actually be, that there is no morality or ultimate love behind it, that it is what it is, and that's how it plays out, and that's what we live with. And I think especially in the modern age, now we sometimes forget the reality of the cruelty of the universe. It's indifference over love. And I guess that personally for me is the reason I can't say that God is love.
I think that if we are looking at the actions of God in biblical texts, they're not the actions of a caring and loving God, drowning the whole world, Lot and Sodom. Just the majority of stories from the Bible don't paint God in a very good light, so I don't see all that much love from that figure.
I can't go out and tell everybody that I'm a Satanist because I'd lose my job, or I'd lose my house, or I'd get ostracized by society. Can you say the same thing? I can't be as open about that, or I might get killed. I might have somebody who thinks that they are a just and righteous person who is taking out the Satanist. And I'm not just a Satanist, I'm a satanic minister. So I take that responsibility very seriously.
Well, I have had people call my workplace trying to get me fired because of my religion. I've had, the state of Iowa actually proposed a bill, well, one senator did, trying to ban satanic symbols on all state property in response to my artwork being in a government building. I've been physically attacked in public and the victim of a large publicly media cycle around a hate crime.
Brought up on presidential elections.
That was talked about in our presidential election cycle as well. There is a lot of fear that theocracy is encroaching and Satanists are a target.
I don't believe in God or a literal Satan. I also don't believe in the existence of a hell or an afterlife. By default, hell would be a symbol. It's not an important symbol that I make use of or that I think a great deal about.
Hell is, as I stated before, don't believe in God or a literal Satan, so why would I believe in a literal hell, in a place that you are damned to for eternity because you didn't follow Daddy's rules? I don't believe in an afterlife. I follow where the science takes us as far as that's concerned. And the thing is, we don't really understand a whole lot about consciousness, and that's the problem. We're the universe contemplating itself. We live in the spark of life in the universe that hasn't burnt out yet. So we're very lucky to be here, but I don't think that there is a hell waiting for me because I don't believe in somebody's book.
I think hell was a symbol long before people thought it was a real place. I think we were speaking earlier where you mentioned Sheol, where in Hebrew text, it literally meant a discard or a trash dump. And it was if you were left there in hell, it was because you were being forgotten and your lineage was being forgotten and excluded. And that was really the true shame of hell for those people at the time. And it wasn't until we got Dante and folks like that who reinterpreted these stories and came up, with the 7 levels and all these things, that really took place in our culture as a literal place. So I think Christianity often interprets this thing without even evidence in their own book.
I don't have some story where the church hurt me or anything like that. I grew apart from it. And a big part of why I grew apart from it is the idea of an all-loving and all-powerful and all-knowing God that sentences people I knew would be sentenced to an eternity of torment. So, growing up, I grew up in a diverse community. I knew Buddhists, I knew Muslims, I knew people who were atheists, I knew people who had a variety of different faiths. That's the thing their parents taught them. So I have to think that, that person goes through their whole life, they live life as best they know how, as best they can reconcile their ethics with themselves, and because they fail to believe in a thing about which there is no evidence that we can point to, no physical, no evidence, then because of that lack of belief, they are condemned to an eternity of torment. And that is, for me, absolutely impossible to resolve with the idea of a God that is all-loving and all-good and all-powerful and all-knowing. Because if there is an all-knowing God, that God knows what argument it can make to convince me. If there is an all-powerful God, then there is no need for there to have been any rebellion of the angels. If it is an all-good God, then everyone will, perhaps after some correction, have an end to torment. So it's impossible for me to reconcile the idea of that God with the idea of hell. That's a big part of what separated me from Christianity in the first place.
For me, personally, a lot of the things that I enjoyed when I was a child. Now, keep in mind, I grew up in the Methodist Church. My grandfather helped build that church. He was a Freemason who built the church right next to the Masonic Temple. And to be a Freemason, you have to have a belief in God. You have to be a Christian. So my grandfather was very Christian. My mother had us read the Bible when we were children. My upbringing was Sunday school every week, so I'm not illiterate as far as that is concerned. But all of the things that I found that were good were satanic. Dungeons and Dragons was satanic. Rock and roll music was satanic. Any counterculture movement at all was satanic. That label has been slapped on things time and time and time again, and it's getting old and tired. So, personally, I figured if I was going to be called a Satanist by everybody else anyways, that I might as well take that identity and forge it into something that I could be proud of, something that I could follow, that made sense to me. And as far as that's concerned, a good thing to say on that would be my sense of, I worship myself like you worship your God. I believe that we should find in ourselves that thing that is worth worshiping, instead of giving that love somewhere else. And that is a very well-defined facet of Satanism, is self-love and self-worth and self-value.
That person has incurred a debt with me.
Yeah,
and it's a debt that will never be able to be repaid.
Right.
And as a Satanist, I do not take that lightly. I do not forgive. I do not forget that easily. Yeah. If someone wrongs me, it becomes a part of me. Even in my own organization, our own organization, we all take that very seriously. There is a line of fire, a boundary that Satanism sets in that capacity, that if you wrong me, I am going to scorch the earth between us, and if you cross it again, that was our line.
And I think that what's very important is that we learn to live together in a society that welcomes and has room for everyone. And so my concern is where our society begins to turn away from that society that welcomes everyone to a society that wants one thing. And that is not the world that I want to live in. That's not the world that I want to promote. And that's why when I talk about pluralism and the importance of pluralism and being welcoming and being understanding of the other people that I encounter, whether they believe the way I do or not. If you can say the same thing that I say, that you're happy to live in a world, even when in a society where I don't believe the same thing you believe, and we can share the central square, then we have no disagreement, other than on the matters of religion.
Yeah.
I don't think that you guys would be comfortable, and I'll tell you why. I would say you and I share the same experience where we've literally had the government step in and say, you can't do the exact same thing that Christians are doing in the exact same space.
If we're in the public forum and one religion is allowed, I feel like that's entirely central to the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, that we all live by our social construct.
Christianity, by default, has the upper hand in all of this.